The doctor told me it was a miracle I'd survived. I didn't feel miraculous. Lying in that sterile hospital bed, half my body wrapped in bandages and the rest aching from a betrayal I hadn't uncovered yet, the word lucky felt almost cruel. When I first woke after the crash, the only person I asked for was my husband, Daniel. The nurse said no one had been by. I insisted she was wrong. He loved me. We'd been married 7 years. Of course he'd call. He'd run in. He always did. He didn't. 2 days later, with trembling hands and an oxygen tube still clipped beneath my nose, I dialed him myself. He picked up on the third ring, irritated, distracted. "Daniel, it's me," I whispered. I'm in the hospital." His answer hit harder than the shards of glass that had torn into my skin. "I don't have time or money for a loser," he said flatly. And he hung up. I stared at my reflection in the dark phone screen, pale, bruised, and suddenly painfully awake. That morning, before the accident, I'd been driving home to tell him I'd inherited $29 million from my late uncle. I never got to deliver the news. It took me 3 weeks before I could walk again. In all that time, he never came. But something else did, a letter with no return address. Inside were photos, Daniel with another woman, fingers intertwined, laughing together. She wore a ring just like mine, only smaller. The timestamp proved they'd been together months before the crash. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I simply folded the pictures, slid them into a drawer, and began planning. I'd met Daniel when I was 26. Idealistic, armed with a business degree, and far too open-hearted. He was charming, clever in the way dangerous men are. He knew how to listen, how to pretend he cared. Back then, I believed love meant trust. Now I understand trust is a loaded gun you give someone and pray they don't pull the trigger. By the time I was discharged, everything was already in motion. My inheritance cleared quietly. No splurging, no sudden lifestyle change, just the ground shifting under his feet. I withdrew my share from our joint accounts. The house, still legally mine. His business, partially funded by me. I had every document, the debts, the forged signatures, the lies he'd buried. He thought he'd upgraded. He was wrong. 5 days later, they appeared. I recognized his voice before he entered. Laughing, arrogant, the sound of a man who thinks he's untouchable. Then hers followed, soft and unfamiliar. When they stepped into my room, time stretched thin. Daniel smirked, arms crossed. "Didn't think you'd survive. Guess you don't know when to quit." I met his stare, calm, I see. But the woman beside him? She froze. Her eyes widened, her face drained. "Oh my God," she whispered, trembling. She didn't finish. Her legs gave out. Daniel grabbed her, confused. "What the hell is wrong with you?" I tilted my head slightly. "You didn't tell him, did you?" Daniel's brow creased. "Tell me what?" Her gaze locked with mine, pleading, terrified. I smiled, slow and deliberate. "That before she became your wife. Daniel, she was my sister." The silence cracked like a thunderclap. He stepped back. "No, that's not." But he already knew. "She knew about the inheritance," I said. "She knew I was on my way home that day. You both did." His mouth opened, then shut again. "You wanted me gone," I continued. "Both of you did. And you got your wish. But the thing about surviving death, Daniel, is it teaches you how to kill without spilling blood." I handed him an envelope. "Here's notice. The business is mine now. The debts are yours. The house is already transferred. And the inheritance," I let a faint smile touch my lips, "out of your reach." He tore through the papers, frantic. "You can't do this. I already have." His new wife, my sister, sobbed, realization crushing her. "You used me," she choked. "You said she was gone." He whipped toward her. "You told me she was dead." Their voices crashed together, rage, panic, betrayal tangled in the air. I stood, shaky but steady, and walked to the door. Before leaving, I glanced back once. "Enjoy your new life," I said quietly. "It's built on ashes. Mine, to be exact." The next morning, the hospital was silent. I watched sunlight spill across the room, turning the walls gold. My body still hurt, but the pain felt purifying. Within a week, Daniel lost everything. His company collapsed under the weight of his own debt. My lawyers made sure of that. My sister left him, her reputation scorched by their affair. As for me, I vanished, started fresh. People say revenge doesn't heal. Maybe they're right. But watching the man who called me a loser crumble in front of the woman who betrayed me, that was its own kind of salvation. Because in the end, he didn't just discover who I truly was. He learned who had replaced him, and she will never forgive him for it.